She's been missing since July 6th.
Beauty pageant queen vanished into plain sight.
She left mysterious voicemails to her aunt's workshop.
Mother Linda Curtis believes an unknown assailant spooked her and killed her.
She was the golden girl of Cocoa Beach, a beauty queen who lit up Hollywood with her smile. One summer morning, she simply vanished. Decades later, the truth begins to breathe. Let's explore how Tammy Lynn Leppert vanished from the spotlight.
17-year-old Tammy Lynn Leppert tells her family that someone is going to kill her. And then she vanishes. DNA evidence points to the same suspect in 2 murder cases. But who is he?
The story begins with the sun rising over Cocoa Beach, Florida. The light spills across the ocean, painting everything gold, and for a second, it feels like the whole world belongs to her. Tammy Lynn Leppert was born to shine. She was the kind of girl whose laughter carried through the streets, whose photograph made people stop for a moment. By the time she was 16, she had won more than 300 beauty pageants. Every ribbon, every crown, every camera flash told her she was destined for something extraordinary. Her mother, Linda Curtis, was a pageant coach and former model who believed her daughter's face could change their lives. Together, they moved from one competition to another, dressing rooms, trophies, and long nights spent rehearsing every smile. People said Tammy had that old Hollywood spark, the kind you could not teach. Her confidence filled every room, and everyone agreed she was going to be famous. Acting came easily. She appeared in small commercials at first, and then in local films. In 1983, she landed her biggest role yet, a small part in Scarface alongside Al Pacino. For a teenage girl from a quiet Florida town, that was a dream. Reporters wrote about her. Photographers wanted new pictures, and she started to imagine a future filled with lights, red carpets, and movie sets. Friends remember how she would walk around barefoot on the beach, practicing movie lines to the rhythm of the waves. But something in Tammy began to change. After one weekend away during the Scarface production, she came home different. Her mother noticed the brightness in her eyes was replaced with fear. She barely slept. She whispered that someone wanted to hurt her. Friends thought she was joking at first, but she stopped laughing. She stopped going out. When people asked what happened, she only said she had seen something terrible at a Hollywood party, something she could not talk about. Days passed, and her fear deepened. She told her mother the phone lines were bugged. She covered mirrors and windows. She refused to eat certain foods, saying they might be poisoned. The girl who had once lived for the spotlight was now afraid of every shadow. Linda tried to get help. She took Tammy to a doctor, who suggested counseling, but Tammy refused medication. She kept saying, "I'm not crazy, I just know too much." Her voice shook when she said it. The people around her started to drift away, unsure of how to handle her anxiety. Still, some stayed. One of them was her friend Keith Roberts. He said Tammy was fragile, but determined to get her life back on track. In early July 1983, she told him she wanted to take a drive, clear her head, maybe feel normal again. Keith agreed. That morning, the two of them set out from Cocoa Beach. The summer air was thick, the kind that makes the horizon shimmer. Somewhere along State Road 520, they began to argue. No one knows what the argument was about. Keith said she suddenly asked him to stop the car near a small convenience store. She stepped out, walked toward the road, and kept going. She never returned. It was July 6, 1983. Tammy Lynn Leppert was 18 years old. When night came and Tammy had not come home, her mother's stomach filled with dread. She called hospitals, police, and friends. No one had seen her. Linda filed a missing person report immediately, insisting that Tammy would never run away. She did not take clothes, money, or identification. She had simply disappeared in daylight, wearing a blue blouse and a skirt, barefoot on the highway. The police treated it as a runaway case at first. They said she was emotional, unstable, maybe chasing a new start. Her mother argued with them every day. She kept repeating, she was scared for her life. Flyers went up across Florida, showing Tammy's face and a reward number. Local TV stations ran small segments about the missing actress, but as weeks passed with no leads, the case began to fade from headlines. Then strange calls started. A woman claimed to have seen Tammy at a bus stop in Georgia. Another caller from California said she met a girl who called herself Amy and looked just like the missing actress. Someone else swore she had joined a traveling group of musicians. Each lead collapsed into silence. The family clung to hope, but fear kept growing. Linda often said she could feel her daughter's absence like an empty room inside her. She spent years chasing rumors, talking to detectives, even contacting psychics when the trail went cold. Some people whispered darker theories. They said Tammy might have witnessed something illegal on a film set. Others believed she became a victim of trafficking or fell into the wrong crowd. None of it was proven. What remained was a picture of a young woman whose smile once lit up a beach and whose disappearance left an ache that time never healed. In interviews, her mother would pause before every answer, as if choosing words could somehow bring her daughter back. Tammy trusted too easily, she said once. She believed everyone had good intentions. That was her light. Maybe that's what led her to danger. The ocean near Cocoa Beach has carried that secret for more than 40 years. Each wave still washes the same shore she once walked barefoot, dreaming about movie stardom. Locals say that on certain evenings, when the sky turns orange and the wind settles, it feels like her presence lingers there. Tammy wanted to be famous, and she became famous, but not for the reason she imagined. Her name now lives in cold case files, in whispered stories, in the hearts of those who still wait for answers. The strange clues. A man came forward claiming he had seen a barefoot young woman matching Tammy's description, walking near a gas station on State Road 520, the same place Keith Roberts had dropped her off. He said she looked scared and confused, trying to flag down a car. But by the time he turned his vehicle around, she was gone. That detail haunted everyone. She was barefoot, just as Keith described. When questioned, Keith maintained that he had only driven her around to help her clear her mind. He said they argued, and she suddenly demanded to be let out. He insisted he had no idea what happened next. Investigators pressed him for inconsistencies, but he stuck to the same story. No evidence linked him to foul play. Eventually, the police ruled him out as a suspect. Still, people could not shake the feeling that something about the drive didn't add up. Why would an 18-year-old girl step out of a car on a highway with no shoes, no bag, and no plan? Linda believed someone had been following her daughter. She told detectives Tammy had been terrified of a certain man before she disappeared, someone connected to the entertainment industry. The police took notes, but never released a name. As time passed, stories about Tammy's final days began to twist. Some claimed she was pregnant and trying to hide it. Others said she was involved with dangerous people in the film world. Her friends dismissed the rumors. They described her as innocent, sheltered, and too trusting. But there was one thing everyone agreed on. Tammy had changed drastically after a certain weekend in Hollywood. Her friend, Wing Flanagan, told police that Tammy had gone to a party full of high-profile men. And when she came back, she was not the same. She barely spoke, refused to eat, and stayed in her room crying. When asked what she saw, she would only whisper, "They'll kill me if I tell you." Wing later said, it wasn't the same Tammy. Her sparkle was gone. She was afraid to even look people in the eye. Whatever she witnessed that weekend seemed to be the start of her spiral. By late 1983, the case was stagnant. No sightings were confirmed, and nobody was found. Detectives tried to retrace her steps, interviewing everyone who had contact with her in the weeks before she vanished. One officer described it as chasing ghosts. Every lead turned into another dead end. Then something eerie happened. Another young woman disappeared from the same area under similar circumstances. Her name was Kimberly Hall. Like Tammy, she was last seen near a main road. Like Tammy, she was young and attractive. Police quietly began to wonder if the two cases were connected. Months later, a drifter named Christopher Wilder was arrested in connection with a string of kidnappings and murders, targeting young women across the country. When the news broke, Linda's heart froze. Wilder had been living in Florida during the time Tammy vanished. He was known to approach aspiring models with fake photo shoot offers, lure them into his car, and then attack them. It felt too familiar. When investigators looked into Wilder's timeline, they discovered he had left Florida shortly after Tammy's disappearance. Some officers believed she might have been his first victim. Linda was convinced. She said the description of his methods matched everything her daughter had feared. Tammy had said someone was after her, someone who pretended to be from the film business. Unfortunately, Wilder died in a shootout with police in 1984 before he could be questioned. And with his death, that theory became just another possibility in a sea of unanswered questions. A mother's battle. Linda refused to give up. She wrote letters to newspapers, television stations, and investigators. She appeared on talk shows, begging anyone with information to come forward. Each time she spoke, she described Tammy as full of life, funny, sweet, and a little stubborn. She reminded people that her daughter was not a Hollywood story or a mystery headline. She was a human being who loved her family, her friends, and her dreams. Her persistence kept the case alive, but it also took a toll. Financially drained and emotionally exhausted, Linda eventually had to move away from Cocoa Beach. Still, she carried Tammy's picture everywhere she went. Years turned into decades. The world moved on, but Linda never did. Every time a Jane Doe was found in Florida or neighboring states, she called investigators asking for dental comparisons. Each time, it wasn't Tammy. The theories. Over the years, three major theories have dominated discussions about Tammy's disappearance. The first theory suggests that Tammy was a victim of foul play connected to the film industry. Some believe she saw something at a party involving drugs, money, or abuse, something that powerful people wanted to keep buried. Her sudden paranoia and refusal to eat or leave the house seemed to support this idea. Those who knew her said she had mentioned seeing a crime during a Hollywood event. When asked what kind, she shook her head, terrified. Some insiders claimed there were rumors of illegal activities at certain gatherings connected to minor film work and modeling agencies in Florida during that time. But without solid evidence, nothing could be proven. The second theory ties Tammy's case to serial killer Christopher Wilder. His timeline fits, his methods fit, and his victim profile fits. Wilder had a pattern of luring beautiful young women under the pretense of helping their careers. He was also known to drive through Cocoa Beach during that exact period. The FBI later confirmed that Wilder's spree began earlier than initially thought, which reopened the possibility that Tammy could have been one of his earliest victims. The third theory is the most tragic, that Tammy suffered from a sudden mental breakdown, left home in confusion, and met a random tragedy, possibly being hit by a car or drowning. But her mother never accepted that version. She wasn't delusional, Linda once said. She was scared of something real. Forgotten evidence. In the late 1990s, a retired detective claimed he had seen missing person files suggesting Tammy had been spotted weeks after she vanished in another Florida city, possibly alive. But those notes were later lost when the department moved buildings. Years later, private investigators reviewed the case and found inconsistencies. They pointed out that there was no written statement from Keith Roberts, the last person to see her alive. Only verbal accounts. No official transcript of his interview exists today. That missing documentation created even more suspicion. Did the police overlook something? Or did someone want the case forgotten? Even stranger, some evidence from her mother's home like Tammy's letters, journals, and personal photographs reportedly disappeared during the first months of the investigation. No one ever explained why. As the years passed, Tammy's story became a haunting local legend. Every time someone disappeared in Florida, her name resurfaced in conversations, almost like a ghost, reminding people not to forget her. In 2005, new technology allowed the police to compare unidentified remains across state databases. Linda hoped this might finally bring closure, but even with modern DNA systems, nothing matched. Tammy was still missing. A few years later, a true crime documentary featured her story again, reigniting public interest. Viewers flooded online forums with theories, timelines, and supposed sightings. Some claimed she had started a new life under a different name. Others swore they saw her in an old photograph from the mid-'80s in another state. None of it was ever verified. Her mother passed away still waiting for answers, believing until her final day that Tammy had been silenced because she saw something she was never meant to see. The chilling possibility. What if Tammy truly stumbled upon a secret in the entertainment world? What if her disappearance was not random at all? Some retired investigators say the case was too quickly dismissed as a runaway. They point out that Tammy's fear of being watched, her claims about powerful people, and the timing of her disappearance during a known killer's spree all align too closely to ignore. Even decades later, every attempt to reopen the case runs into the same problem: missing files, incomplete statements, and lost evidence. It's as if the story was meant to stay buried. In 2018, a group of independent investigators reopened Tammy's case using newly digitized police records and family interviews. They began mapping her final movements, comparing witness accounts, and tracing timelines that were overlooked back in 1983. What they found was chilling. A witness who lived near the Cocoa Beach Causeway came forward saying he remembered a blue car parked on the roadside the same morning Tammy vanished. Inside, he saw a young man and a girl arguing. Minutes later, he noticed the girl walking alone down the highway. The car followed for a short distance before speeding away. That detail had never been recorded in the original police report. When investigators tried to locate that witness in the 80s, they couldn't. He had moved out of state. His statement resurfaced only when his family discovered an old journal entry where he had written about the missing girl from the beach. The car he described was similar to the one owned by Keith Roberts, the last person to see Tammy alive. But Keith passed away years later, and no one ever charged him. Whether it was guilt or coincidence, no one can say. During the same period, another strange coincidence appeared. A man who once worked as a talent scout in Florida admitted, years after Wilder's death, that he had been approached by someone claiming to represent a new model named Tammy from Cocoa Beach. The caller wanted to schedule a meeting in Miami around July 1983, just days after Tammy disappeared. He never met Tammy, but the timing haunted him. Could someone have used her identity to lure other victims? It would not be the first time a killer used the name of a missing person as bait. When this detail reached the cold case team, they began exploring the idea that Tammy might have initially escaped whoever targeted her, but was later intercepted by someone pretending to help. There were even whispers of a possible organized trafficking network that targeted aspiring models in Florida during the early 80s, many of whom went missing without media attention. The family's discovery. A year before she died, Linda Curtis received an anonymous letter. The handwriting was messy, the words trembling across the page. It said, "Your daughter was brave." She tried to protect someone, but they found her first. Look near the river where the bridge bends. I'm sorry. The letter had no name, no return address. The police dismissed it as a hoax, but Linda drove to every bridge along the Indian River, searching through reeds and rocks, hoping to find even a trace. She found nothing. Still, that letter became her final anchor of hope. To her, it confirmed what she had always believed: Tammy's disappearance wasn't random. Someone silenced her. Modern investigators studying the case today lean toward a combination of both major theories: that Tammy was targeted because of what she saw in the entertainment scene, and that her fear made her vulnerable to predators like Christopher Wilder. In other words, she may have run to escape one danger and unknowingly stepped into another. Wilder's confirmed victims shared striking similarities with Tammy. All were young, beautiful, ambitious, and often aspiring actresses or models. Many were last seen near beaches or highways in Florida. What still haunts detectives is that Wilder's early travel records between 1982 and 1983 contain several unexplained gaps. He disappeared from his regular residence during the exact week Tammy went missing. Could she have been his first victim? The one that began his violent spree? No proof exists, but the pattern fits too perfectly to ignore. Sometimes the scariest part of Tammy's story isn't what happened, but how quickly the world moved on. Her disappearance came at a time when missing young women were often dismissed as runaways. The police had no national DNA system, no digital communication, no viral posts to spread awareness. If you vanished in 1983, you truly disappeared. Years later, a detective admitted that many files from that era were lost in transfers or purged to save space. Whole sections of Tammy's investigation might have been thrown away without anyone realizing their value. That is the cruelest part of this story: how an entire life can vanish, not only in reality, but even in the paperwork that once held her name. The emotional weight. Every person who knows Tammy describes her with the same word: light. She had a kindness that disarmed people, a belief that everyone deserved a second chance. She loved animals, wrote poems about the ocean, and collected seashells that she said held secrets from the sea. One of those shells still sits on her mother's dresser, faded and cracked, like a relic of a dream. Her best friend Wing Flanagan once told a reporter, "I don't think Tammy's gone. I think she's still out there in a way. Maybe not her body, but her spirit. She's too strong to disappear." After Tammy disappeared, something eerie happened in Florida's modeling scene. Several small agencies quietly shut down. A few talent scouts vanished without explanation. Rumors spread that the police had quietly warned certain people to leave town. None of this made the news. To this day, no one knows whether that wave of disappearances was coincidence or cleanup. But what's certain is that Tammy's case scared people. It exposed how vulnerable young women were in an industry that promised glamour, but often delivered danger. Her story became a quiet warning, one that still echoes in Florida's modeling communities even now. The legacy she left behind. 4 decades later, Tammy's face still appears on missing person posters and online databases. Her family continues to hope that DNA advances will one day match her to an unidentified body. But many people believe the real justice for Tammy lies not in finding her remains, but in remembering her truth. She was not just a girl who disappeared. She was a girl who trusted the wrong hands, who tried to speak, but was silenced. In a world obsessed with fame, she became famous for her absence. If Tammy's story touched your heart, hit like, subscribe, and share her voice. Every click keeps her memory alive and brings us one step closer to the truth she never got to tell.